Hey everyone, welcome to this workshop on setting up a Monad full node. Today I'm going to walk you through the entire process from start to finish. By the end of this video, you will have a fully operational Monad node synced to mainnet. Let's dive right in. Before we begin, let's talk about what you'll need. First off, you need a bare metal server. Cloud environments aren't officially supported, so keep that in mind. You'll want Ubuntu 24.04 or later with a Linux kernel version 6.8 or higher. One important BIOS setting is to make sure hyperthreading or SMT, if you're on AMD, is disabled. Let's take a look at the hardware requirements. For CPU, you need at least 16 cores with a base clock of 4.5 GHz or higher. Something like AMD Ryzen 9950X or 7950X works great. You'll need 32 GB of RAM minimum. For storage, you need 2 drives, a 2 TB NVMe specifically for the 3DB database and a separate 500 GB drive for the operating system and Monad BFD data. And finally, make sure you have at least 100 megabits per second of bandwidth. Alright, let's start setting things up. First, we'll update the system. Let's run this command here to update our system. Next, we need to install the Monad package. But before that, let's install these additional dependencies. We will configure the apt repository by creating a sources file, then download and install the GPG key. After that, we are going to install the Monad package. We also use apt-mark hold to prevent accidental updates. Now let's create a dedicated user for Monad. We create a user called Monad and set up all the necessary directories under its own folder. Now I will clear the terminal and move on to the next part. Alright, this next part is critical, so please pay close attention. We need to configure the 3DB device. But first, I would like to see what drive I should be using for 3DB. For that, I'll be running lsbl key to see what drive I'm using for my operating system. So it looks like I'm using the NVMe 1N1 for my operating system, as that includes the boot and the swap partitions. And this looks like it's perfectly empty, which is great for using for 3DB. Now I will copy this command and I will change this 1 to 0n so it matches this empty disk here. Then I will click enter and set that environment variable. Then I will use this command to create a GPT partition table and a single partition using parted. Next, we set up a udev rule so that the partition gets a consistent symlink at dev/3db. Run these commands to trigger and reload the rules, then verify the symlink exists. Alright, it works as intended. So one more thing here. You can verify the drive is using 512-byte logical block addressing. Run the NVMe id-ns command and check. But usually this is already set up, so we don't need to set up this manually. Finally, start the Monad MPT service to format the 3DB partition. Then I will use Q to exit this. And if everything is successful, what you're going to see here on your terminal is something similar to this one here. Now, let's move on to the firewall rules. I will clear my terminal and then move on. Alright, now let's lock down the network. We'll allow SSH so you don't lock yourself out, and we will allow port 8000 for peer-to-peer communication and then enable the firewall. There is also an anti-spam IP tables rule that you should add. This drops UDP packets on port 8000 that are suspiciously small, under 1400 bytes. Now let's move on to the next part. I'll clear my terminal again. Alright, so now we configured the OTIL collector. We just run this command and it's done. Then let me clear my terminal and move on to configuring the node. First, download the configuration files from the Monad infra. Make sure to download the ones for the full node, not for the validators. Then we generate the key stores. And then we copy this one as well and run it. Alright, these key stores are here in these folders. I suggest that you backup them. If you don't know how to, please ask your choice of LLM and it will tell you how to do it. Now we need to update node.toml in Nano or your favorite editor. So Nano, home, Monad BFT, config, node.toml. So here, I'll make sure the beneficiary is set to this 0x0 address. I'll be setting a node name. So here, I'm gonna name my node workshop _ node 1. Then I will make sure these other options are correctly written here. Enable client is true and expand to group is also, let's see it. Expand the group is true. All right, let's write it with option O, then enter, then option X to close Nano. Let's move on to node signature record. And this will output a signature. And now we need to copy this information here and put it into the node toml file that we edited previously. So I'll just click the up arrow to go back in the comments, and then I will enter into node.toml. And here I will erase this part and paste in my stuff. All right, I'll paste with command V and I'll enter a new line. Then I will do option O, enter option X to exit Nano. So let's move on to actually starting the node. Setting the file system permissions, maybe clearing the terminal. And then we will enable the Monad services and then actually start them. And let's check if the things are running correctly. Copy this command that checks all the services and see all the green here. So one other command that I really like after I set everything up is to run Monad status. And this shows a page of useful information about my node. And hey, my services are running and the consensus is currently out of sync because it's currently syncing because this is a new node. It will take some time for it to catch up. And that's it. You have a fully operational Monad full node. In the next workshop, we will cover the execution events and how to enable real-time transaction event streaming from your node. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.